Next, what we need to do is look at passing parameters. And passing parameters really is the nuts and bolts of communication between modules here in Chapter 10. There's a few pieces here we have to look at structurally to make this really work. So to pass parameters, and a parameter is just a piece of data. It is an item that you want the calling module. So that's from the line and main line where we're going to make a function call. So that's the calling line. The calling module must have a counterpart, something that's able to actually receive that. So what does that look like? So here in the middle of 161, we have this particular line, print page headings. That is what is going to be represented in the main line portion of the algorithm. And the bit right here, this is the communicating. This is where our parameters come into play. So first things first, what we need structurally are these parentheses here. Those parentheses are going to be essentially a comma-separated list for us. That comma-separated list is going to be the names of the variables that we are going to ensure get passed down to our subordinate module. So what do we notice? We are going to pass page count and line count. Probably these are not really mysterious as to what those variables do, right? Page count, that is going to contain the page. Line count, that is going to contain whatever line it is that we are on, so that we don't spill over and try to print on, paper that's not there. That's really why we need that line count. So what we are doing is, from inside of our main line, we are going to pass two parameters, page count and line count. And we are going to pass those to print page headings. So what's going to happen is, at that time, we are going to we're going to shift the flow of control from our mainline algorithm down to one of our subordinate algorithms. That subordinate algorithm in this case is going to be print page headings. Now, print page headings has to be able to receive parameters. So the number of parameters inside here, the parameters list for the called module, has to line up over here with how many parameters it's passing from the calling module. So if I've got 2 here, that has to map to 2 here. If I do not have 2 and 2, that is not going to be communicating between modules, and that's not going to be what we expect. So here, you'll notice that inside of my called module, print page headings, I'm going to receive 2 variables. But this time, I'm going to call my first variable page number and my second variable line number. Now you'll notice that page number and line number are in fact not the same as page count and line count, right? Those variables are different. But does count and number, are those essentially the same? I kind of argue, yeah, they are. Is anybody really going to be confused by page count versus page number? No, I mean, unless you've already had a really intense, involved production meeting inside of your company where people have actually started fist fights about the difference between counts and numbers, probably that's not going to be a big deal. So what this enables us to do is avoid any potential, or hopefully avoid any potential for side effects. So I am passing page count down here to the called module, and instead of calling it page count, I'm going to call it page number. Problem averted. I'm going to pass line count down here to my called module, and instead of calling it line count, I'm going to call it line number. Any potential side effect has been avoided. Now, the way we get away with this is copies, essentially. So what happens is, here again, this is in our mainline algorithm. So we are taking page count and we are taking line count. And when we pass those parameters down to here, we aren't necessarily passing the original copy. We're passing, by default in most languages, we're passing a copy of that. So over here, I'm going to put PC and LC. Those are page count and line count. And down here, what we're going to get is PC2 and LC2. Page count 2, line count 2. So whatever happens to these two is not necessarily automatically going to revert, and change page count and line count. So here, whatever happens to page number and line number is perfectly okay, because that's happening to a copy of our data and not the original part of our data. So what is really happening here is formal versus actual parameters. The actual parameters are what is up here in our mainline algorithm. It's just the name for these two things that are happening right here, page count and line count. The formal parameters, those are here. That's page number and line number. And again, are they referring to the same data? Kinda. Page number and line number are referring to copies of the data that comes from our calling module up here in our mainline algorithm. So this is the nuts and bolts. This is the meat and potatoes. It is passing parameters from one module to another. This is how we get our modules to communicate. This is how we make more perfect modular design, because we take copies of data and we move those copies of data around into small local subordinate modules. When this print page headings, when this module is done running, the copy of that data goes away. It's gone. And the flow of control is given back here to the main line, where the original data, page count, line count, has not been changed as a result of calling a subordinate module. And this is really the magic that makes huge programs work. We're passing copies around so that other parts of our program can do what they need to do without fear of molestation of these original variables. And it turns out that it works fantastic.